invite Mr. Shubronil Talukdar to hold the spotlight for the next 40 minutes.
Hi everyone. So today the session will be more about how I have been personally using, first-party data, and I've leveraged it to an extent. I feel, of course, there are more experiments that need to be done. But what really has been happening in the background since last 2 years, since I've started using customer labs and first-party data in all of my accounts. That's so I'll take you through all the examples, the case studies, and how we have basically helped Meta understand, like as a goal, understand what really matters to us as a business and how we train Meta for it. Yeah. So. Yeah. So this particular slide, I think Vishnu has covered in length. But in the reality is that Meta has all the audiences. The only problem is that we are not sending the right data into the system so that the feedback loop understands the signals that are required for the campaigns to actually optimize for the business goals that we are setting in for Meta, right? So a few things, again, this might be a repeat, but just bear with me. Privacy first world. So there is definitely cookie loss. There are attribution issues that are happening in all our accounts, right? The new regulations are coming in. Advantage plus reality. So basically automations have definitely come in, and whatever we may try, targeting control has basically gone. Now we still use, we are still stacking interest in our campaigns. We are using lookalike audiences, but they do not work in the manner that we would want to, or probably the way we were using it in 2020, right? And as you see, if you would go on Google or you would go on LinkedIn, everyone would say go broad, go start using Advantage Plus. So really targeting is not under our control. And the way Meta has been bringing in updates, Meta has been continuously bringing in updates, and I feel slowly and gradually everything will go out of control. So how do we get prepared for it? So the big question that we are asking ourselves is, how do we become better prepared for what's coming next? How do we basically control the rising cost? How do we ensure basically while we are scaling, the ROAS doesn't go down, right? And the answer lies in basically your first party data. First party data, for me, it's very simple. The data that we own for all the people that are visiting my website. And this is not just people who are converting, but also the anonymous people for whom I do not have the email ID, do not have the phone number, do not have the first name or the last name. So for them as well, I'm storing this data, right? So once we start controlling first party data, is how we control basically how Meta algorithm is basically functioning, right? I think so. Again, this is something that is covered, but I'll take it more from a marketer's point of view. So at the bottom are basically the actions that are happening inside Meta. Now, if you see that the way you would basically interact with any ad or platform, there would be an organic impression, right? There will be an ad impression. You'll go and like a page. You will basically like an ad, click on it. Now, all of this is basically getting stored in Meta's first party data. This is Meta's first party data, right? Because this is happening inside Meta's ecosystem. Now, when Meta is storing this data, it's basically adding timestamps, right? And once it adds timestamps, it understands and builds that sequence. So this happened first, then this happened, then this happened. Now, when you actually build that sequence is when the context comes in. It understands how you are reacting to an ad. And that's how basically the sequencing is actually working. Now, try to understand this is all happening inside Meta. What will happen when you click on an ad and enter another ecosystem, which is your own website, right? How would Meta understand what you're doing there? Right? That's where basically the FB click ID and external ID comes in, right? FB click ID is the ID that is being given by Meta once you click on an ad and you enter the other world for Meta. And external ID is something that is given by tool like customer labs, and then it goes back into the system, and that's how basically the feedback loop is being closed, right? So every action that you're doing, that's how it understands the ad conversion. Now this can be any objective that you're setting inside your Meta campaign, right? That's how continuously the feedback loop is working. And that's why Vishnu was stressing on the fact that FB click ID and external ID should not get broken. So these are not just the two parameters, there are multiple parameters, but these are the most important parameters for Meta, right? And to basically help map anonymous users. But most importantly, when the conversion is actually happening, there's this part which Vishnu was stressing upon again, unification. Right now, we all have multiple devices. The way we are interacting might be different every time. We do not interact in the same way we have interacted previously. How would Meta know that it is Shubro who eventually interacted so many times and finally converted? Okay, that is basically a unification that is happening. Okay, and that also you need to understand there are three layers. One is Meta, one is your website, and the third part is where you are doing the checkout. Now, all of this, when it gets combined, basically the unification happens. And that's where first party data is important. The external ID is important, and keeping it intact is important. Correct? So that's how basically the first part is more or less, we need to ensure that this does not get broken, right? No, clearly, I think so. Everyone relates with this fact that the game has changed. It's not about duplication of the campaigns that we earlier used to do. It's not about lookalikes anymore. So should our strategy, right? Now, again, why I'm saying that we should start going beyond standard purchase event. Now, giving a classic example, which I was speaking in the morning itself, we are all interacting with GPT, Perplexity, and all these AI models, right? And everyone says the same thing. The better the input, the better the output. Isn't it also applicable for Meta AI? If you use a standard purchase event, you'll get a standard purchase event. Meta doesn't understand for a fact that what purchase is important for you. You ask for a purchase, it's giving a purchase, right? And also that's also a reason why a lot of performance marketers would say, don't optimize for add to cart. Don't optimize for checkout, because then only you'll get add to cart. And Meta is very smart about it that it would only get add to cart, it won't get you purchases. So that also applies here. If you use standard purchase, you'll only get standard purchase, right? So where does it really cause problem for a business? Because Meta does not understand what your business challenge is. You need to teach Meta what your business challenge is, right? If you won't feed that data into Meta, that Meta, this is what I want, it won't understand by its own, right? So for example, Meta will keep optimizing for cheap and low value purchases. You put out a campaign, and because it is easy for Meta AI to achieve it, it will always go for the objective that you are setting in and try to do maximum, right? That is why maximized conversions, right? We are spending on returning customers, but we need new ones. For any business to scale, to succeed, you would want constant flow of net new customers, right? That's how you will actually start scaling. But if you actually run a campaign with the standard purchase event, and there's an option, like you can break down basis audience segments, you will see new customers, engaged audience, and existing customers, always. So until and unless you are not excluding or you are not telling Meta that this audience is not important for me, Meta won't understand. Third, we want more high margin sales, but Meta doesn't get it because we are not sending that data into Meta. We are not feeding Meta. We are not telling Meta basically that do not optimize for ROAS. Start optimizing for POAS, profit on advertising spend. If we set it as profits, then Meta starts optimizing for profits. We can create a custom column in that dashboard, POAS, right? We can create custom metrics. You start optimizing for POAS. You don't optimize for ROAS, but then you have to feed that data into Meta, right? Meta's AI is struggling to scale all product categories horizontally. Now that's also a challenge. While we can do all the creative testing, extract the post IDs, put it in CBO, and do the vertical scaling. But horizontal scaling becomes a challenge because why? Again, we are using one standard event for all our categories, right? Now, I'll give you all the examples that I have tested, so it will help you understand things better. So in general, this is basically what synthetic and custom event is, where you are defining the rules of the conversion event. Now, not necessarily this has to be for purchase, as Vishnu said earlier, it can be for page view as well. It can be for scroll depth as well. It can be for whatever you want to define. And that's where the intelligence basically comes in. What event is actually important for you as a business, as a brand, as a marketer? So everyone would agree that net new customers are important because that's how you start running your LTV, your retention, and that's where the profitability actually comes in, right? One thing we ideally miss on is that we try to become a day one profitable brand, but that's not how scaling actually happens. The profitability actually starts coming in when people start coming back into the system to make more purchases, right? So optimizing for purchase, great ROAS, but mostly repeat buyers. New customer growth actually plateaus. And that's also one of the reasons why you would see the incremental reach of your campaign actually starts going down, right? Because it will keep on rotating between the same audiences again and again and again and again, right? And then we will see, oh, creative fatigue is coming in, so now we need to add more creatives. Yeah, that's also a reason. But also a reason is that you're not pushing your campaign for cold audiences, for new audiences. Now, if we start training Meta, these are my audiences, don't go behind them. Start finding new customer profiles. It will take some time, but it will learn. Once it learns, it will only bring in new customers into the funnel, right? NCAC improves, customer base grows, and that also helps as performance marketers to split the campaigns into acquisition and retention. Now your ROAS is clear. What is your ROAS for acquisition and how much ROAS you are actually getting for retention? You can create creatives for acquisition. You can create hyper personalized creatives for retention. You don't have to put everything into one, right? So results in better distribution of budget across different customer segments, can focus on deeper personalization with retention campaigns. So NCAC is a must. Everyone should do it. Any brand that I onboard, the first thing is do NCAC. Do not waste your money on existing customers, for at least for acquisition. So this might be a little blurred, but people who know audience segmentation inside a campaign. So this is a screenshot from one of the campaigns where NCAC wasn't being used. And as you can see, budget is being spent on existing customers, right? Now, for example, that person has already seen the creative, has already gone through that process. And the person is again being retargeted with the same creatives because he is part of the same funnel, he or she. In the second image, you can see only new and engaged. There's no existing customers because we have completely excluded them. And how does it happen? It's not just so few performance marketers, what they would do is they will create a custom audience inside Meta 30 days, right? You cannot do it anyhow beyond 30 days because Meta will not store the data. So that's the maximum that you can do. That's where storing external IDs and FB click IDs and unification of the customer profiles becomes important, because custom tool like CDP, customer data platform, or customer labs will store that data for you. You create a custom event where you keep on excluding this data again and again and again. So it keeps refreshing. So Meta will not go behind your existing customers. So this is the key difference between a campaign where the NCAC is not functioning and a campaign where NCAC is purely working and bringing new audiences. Engaged audiences, basically person has come, not converted. So Meta is showing more creatives to exclude. Now the question could be, can we exclude engaged audiences? Yes. But the question is, do you have creators to remarket the engaged audiences? Because then more the segmentation, more basically you have to focus on more creators, right? So it totally depends on us whether we want to do that, but we can. Yeah. The second way I've been using custom events, signal engineering, whatever we want to call, is basically through high low AOV optimization. This was the first experiment that I did with one of my brands. This was a watch brand. This is a watch brand. And we did multiple experiments actually. We had men watches, women watches. Inside men, we have multiple AOVs, 3,000, 5,000, above 7,000. The same goes for women. Now, same logic. We created these custom events. We defined that this custom purchase event should only fire when the purchase conversion value is above 5,000. Or it should only fire when the product ID or the name has women watch or whatever the name you're putting for your product. That's how basically Meta starts understanding that I'm only doing a good job when I'm achieving this objective. Otherwise, it won't, right? So what happened? Yeah. Uh, so this is the result from the first experiment that we did. As you can see, I'll spell it out. Low AOV women, mid AOV women, high AOV men, low AOV men, mid AOV men. These are all custom purchase events, all properly defined, all having their specific rules, data being fed into the system. And you can see the success rate of the custom event: 78%, 72%, 61, 55, 65. So that's the success rate of the custom event. Was there a spillage? Yes, we are still getting, for mid AOV when we are still getting high AOV month purchases, but then that is fine. If your custom event has a decent success rate, that is what basically you want. That is what you want from Meta to understand how it should start optimizing your campaign. And this is what signal engineering is. Okay. Similarly, another campaign where percentage of custom purchases, again, high OV, 46, 49, 50, 55. Question should be, can it be increased? Yes, we'll discuss this in the next slide. CPP actually going down week on week. It is going down, right? Few things that we should consider when we are using high AOV and low AOV, and this is we have learned through the mistakes that we have done in the past. A lot of times I've seen brands, basically they become at times too granular. 600 rupees, 700 rupee, 800 rupee, 900 rupee. So basically then what you're doing is you're creating micro segments, and then basically it starts overlapping, audience overlapping starts happening. If I can afford a 600 rupee product, I can still afford a 700 rupee product, right? So where we need to use that, the intelligence is that there should be a definite gap between these custom events, right? It should not, the cohort should not overlap. If it overlaps, then there will be a problem. You are not basically giving proper data for learning, because it won't be able to achieve that success rate of the custom events, right? Second problem is that when we do too many custom events, we do not give enough spends to Meta, enough budget to Meta to actually optimize, right? And as Vishnu said earlier, you don't just need quality of data, you also need quantity. Meta needs enough quantity to learn. So if you what will happen when you start multiple such campaigns, you will divide your budget, you will put smaller budgets, it won't learn. You start with custom events which are more related to your business, give enough learning, and then they'll start optimizing. The third thing that I have seen few brands doing, they don't focus on CRO. Okay, so while you're setting this custom event where Meta will try to bring in audiences who ideally should basically complete the objective that you're setting in, but you're not nudging the person to go for higher AOV on when the person is visiting your website. Okay, they will not understand by themselves. You still have to push them. Okay, you still have to give those lucrative offers. You still have to tell them that I'm running a bundle. Okay, and then basically everything starts building in a loop format, and that's how it starts optimizing and learning. So you are basically using CRO to help Meta achieve its objective, so the learning will come in faster, right? So key things that we need to learn, we should not go too segmented. We need to give enough budget for the learning to come in and help Meta achieve this objective through different techniques when the person is landing on the website. Push, basically, right? Category-based custom events, again, something which we can refer to what we did with the watch brand. These were two separate categories, men and women. You can do the same for any of the categories you want to push horizontally. But again, I've seen problem happens when there are two overlapping categories. For example, plus size pants. Now, this is a specific category, but if you start doing pants and jeans, won't work that way, because especially in fashion, it's impulse. You don't just go for, when you're buying, I'll buy a t-shirt today. You'll explore other stuff as well. So it won't work that way. So you need to be very clear when you're starting the category based optimization, what you want to achieve through this. COD versus prepaid optimization. I think so. Most of the brands in India face this challenge, where COD basically impacts the campaign or the bottom line to an extent. So again, can be done. You pull the prepaid data coming in, people who are going for prepaid orders. You pull that signal, you link it with customer labs or any CDP tool for that matter. Meta understands the kind of people it needs to bring to complete the customer objective that you're setting. And as you can see, 80, 100, 96, 87% success rate. So again, there's some spillover that's happening, but then at least 90% of the people who are coming into the system are going for prepaid orders. So again, you're telling Meta what you really want, and that's what it is achieving. Now, something very similar, I've talked about POAS. That is an experiment that I haven't done, but it is very much possible. It has been done in the past by others. You just need to feed in the margins. Once it understands the margin it needs to operate and needs to achieve, you basically create a custom column of POAS, profitability on ad spend, like we do on revenue on ad spend, and then start optimizing your campaign for POAS, right? So in a nutshell, these are all the experiments that we have done and has been successful, and we have been implementing all these custom events. But this is not it. As I said in the morning, keep experimenting. You can do it. Lead generation, I've experimented with scroll depth. When you're using landing pages, you want to basically target people who are actually reading the content and coming and bouncing off, right? So scroll depth is something that you can do. I've also done scroll depth plus or time session duration, because a lot of times you're on mobile, you're just scrolling, but are you spending enough time? Okay. So, but then this is case to case basis. You need to test it out and understand what really is working for you, and then basically start optimizing for it. And that's where basically experimentation needs to happen every time. So few things: do not do over segmentation, because that will impact the campaigns. The quantity of data will get reduced because you won't be spending too much budget in pushing those campaigns. Not monitoring the whole funnel. If something goes bad, it's not because of Meta. We need to get out of that thing that it's not because of Meta, especially when your tracking system is in place. Your external ID and FB click IDs are getting tracked and they're going back into the system. So Meta should be the last thing you should come. It should not be the first thing. First, start checking, go on to Clarity, start checking the data, how people are actually engaging with your website, right? Particularly like high OV, low OV. And then probably if everything is right, then come on to Meta and see really if there is a problem. So monitor the whole funnel, not just your ad dashboard. Go beyond your ad dashboard. Garbage in, garbage out. I think so. All of us, Deepan, everyone has been speaking about it. Quality is important, plus the quantity, and then you start getting the output, right? And that's where it comes in. Basically, again, those two parameters. Always remember FB click ID and external ID. The data should not get fragmented. The data should not be sent in silos. Unification of the customer profiles are very important for Meta to actually understand who is important for you and to find relevant audiences who are similar to those profiles. So that's pretty much it. Any questions? Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Tony
Hi.
here. So, I take care of marketing for a company called Bidhat. We are into agri input, everything a farmer will require to grow his crops. So, you spoke about profitable marketing and your POAS. So, how do we set this up? Because each of the product would have different gross margins and different fulfillment cost. How do we bring in that data into the system?
That's where basically customer labs. So all these events that I've been creating, these are actually being created inside customer labs, and they have been powering all these custom events. So basically at product level, at SQ level, we need to send this data into the system where this custom event is being created. And that's where it starts basically channeling the whole thing. So all the high OV, low OV, all these criterias or the rules, custom rules, whatever you want to call it, it has been set inside customer labs.
And this data will be fed into feed-based campaigns. Okay.
This is all a feedback loop, right? This is all a loop that we are trying to create for Meta to understand. Between the three basically ecosystem, Meta being one, website being the second, and the checkout being the third, because every brand in India is primarily using one-click checkout. So these are the three basically ecosystems we are operating in between. And customer lab is basically kind of understand an umbrella, basically sending the signals between all the three ecosystems. Yeah.
So I have one more question. So you spoke about low AOV and high AOV. How is this different from, let's say, maximize conversion value?
So maximize conversion value is probably where you are setting up a campaign where you only want for the maximize conversion. In my case, I wanted to run not just push Meta for the high AOV purchases, I also want the inventory for the low AOV purchase to move. So while I was focusing on vertical scaling, I also wanted horizontal scaling to keep happen. I didn't want just to focus on one product, because watch as a brand is day one profitable brand. There won't be much of retention marketing. People won't buy watch like 2 or 3 times in a year, right? So all the inventory had to be moved. So I created separate events for low AOV and high AOV, so that they can actually scale horizontally and they don't try to cannibalize each other.
These were the custom events or conversion in Meta or in
Customer labs.
good. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Akash. I'm the CEO and co-founder of GrowthMac. We are a growth marketing agency. So this is very insightful. But just wanted to pick your brain. If you have any insights on particularly B2B lead generation. So it's a kind of topic which is very broad, but just wanted to know, like, any insights you have in terms of Meta to help in lead generation. But I understand the foundation is first party data, and we've been doing that successfully. But any insights into the future of Meta in lead generation?
I think so. For B2B, we have an expert sitting here. I don't do much of B2B lead generation, but all the campaigns that I've basically done in the past, as I said, I have been experimenting with custom events even before I got in touch with customer labs, scroll depth basically. And also another feature that customer lab has is that you can also connect this with your CRM. So every stage becomes a custom event. And then Meta starts understanding who is a SQL for you, what is an MQL for you, who is finally getting converted at the end. So that training can actually happen. But of course, unlike e-commerce, it's not happening every day. So it will take some time, but then you can start feeding those signals again. The concept pretty much remains the same. You pick the data where you want to, and then you start feeding into the system. It understands the customer profile.
Got it. Thank you. Just one more question. It's regarding POS. Does we have the capability of sending in dynamic POS in through customer labs?
So I have not experimented with POAS so far, but we can definitely discuss this together, with Vishnu.
Thank you.
Hey, hi everyone.
Yeah.
Mike, can you put more highlight on what you mean when you mention meta click ID and the external ID?
Okay. So when you interact with any ad, that happens within the Meta ecosystem, right? So consider even, so if I'm sending you to your friend, what will you say? Or basically a cold email, I got a referral from Shubro, right? So when Meta, basically somebody is leaving Meta's ecosystem and entering another world, Meta is basically giving an ID so that when the feedback loops come back in, Meta understand, okay, this was the person, this was the FB click ID, and this person went out, did whatever he had to, and then came back. Now, how do I connect what you did there is the external ID. And when these two come together, I understand you are the same person.
So you are mentioning the user goes from Meta to my platform and
So when basically user is leaving Meta's platform, FB click ID gets attached. When the user is coming back into Meta, external ID gets attached. When FB click ID and external ID get basically together, because when customer lab is also sending the external ID, it is also sending the FB click ID. So that's how basically it's able to connect that it is the same person.
but it is normal conversion, right? If I doing a purchase signal, when user click on the Meta ad and go to the website and read a purchase, it's an event of the purchase, and that signal comes back to the Meta, right? So what is the difference? Like what you're trying?
This is how Meta understand who this audience is.
Correct.
Because basis this, Meta will start bringing more audiences. Okay, so basically it is basically doing a mathematical modeling to understand your behavior. You are doing this over a 7 days, you did this, and then accordingly it will start picking up people who are next in line, the probability of matching your behavior is similar. So that's how it understands, and that's why, that is why again and again what Vishnu and I am saying is journeys need to be closed, not fragmented. Okay. So purchase event will anyhow happen, but the point is just doing the purchase is not important. Who did it and what all actions did you take to do it? That is important. Because also one new thing that has come in Meta, Andromeda, wherein put all the creators together. Meta will understand which creatives needs to be shown. How does Meta understand?
I think it is the signals what it got from the.
Exactly, right? So you're doing certain actions inside Meta through which you took some actions there, which resulted in a purchase event. So this is all a sequence, timestamp. So that's how it understands every click ID while you leave the system. And when you come back, external and every click ID coming back together. And then basically the whole journey becomes a clear picture for Meta. This is what you did to achieve
Got it.
whatever.
So I have one last question. So, few years back, the only two platforms used to run on. One was Meta, second on website, and website where you do the purchases. But now one click checking out. Now the three platforms coming in a picture.
Yes.
So, in your experience, did you feel the tracking missing out with the three platform, or the tracking was better when it was two platform?
Interesting question. I think so. With one click checkout coming in, actually, there was a problem. And that problem actually got resolved in the first, the watch brand that I spoke about. That was the first brand where Customer Labs first party data server to server tracking and all of this got introduced. And we actually saw a jump in the ROAS because the tracking actually got fixed. And that's why I'm saying whenever there is a problem, I don't look at Meta. There's an issue. First, I go into actually Events Manager. I look into the EMQ and then I call Hari. Ki bro, is there a problem at Customer Labs end? Is the data not flowing properly? Right? That is my first thing that I do to understand whether the data is flowing properly or not. If everything is right, then the next step is basically checking Meta or Clarity data or Hotjar, whatever I have to understand where the problem is happening. So the first part is going and checking whether data is flowing properly or not and calling Hari.
Thank you, guys. Good day.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I have a question. So I'm Mahesh. So I work in the first party data collection. So I haven't worked on setting up campaigns in Meta. Just want to understand, how do we send first party data to Facebook or the Meta, right?
How do we send first party data to Meta?
Is there any connection established between your...
So the connection has been established by Customer Labs. If you want to understand the technicality of it, I'm not the right guy. You can speak to Hari or Vishnu. Like what's the technology behind it? I can help you with the application of it and how I'm currently using in most of my campaigns.
Okay.
But it is primarily server to server tracking that they are doing.
Okay, server to server between Customer Labs.
Sorry?
Server to server, you mean Customer Labs and then Meta, right? Okay, and the second question I have is when you send the profile data from your customer or first party data collection, right? How does the data gets masked? Is there any encryption mechanism? Do you guys
Yeah. They are hashing the data, but primarily that is important in the health and wellness category.
Okay.
Not in all the categories because there is a compliance issue that if I'm selling a diabetic product, Meta should not understand the person who is buying is diabetic. So when we are sending the PII and the PHI data, it has to be masked.
So mostly do you send the hashed email address, phone number?
Everything is hashed. Even the URL, everything is hashed. So because Meta can still read the URL, so everything is hashed. So no way it should understand that this is a diabetic product, he is a diabetic patient. But does it work similar to a standard purchase event? No, it won't. But still, it is better than not able to optimize for the bottom of the funnel events, which
but for other categories, we don't have the restriction, right?
Till now, we don't, but Meta is continuously updating. So let's see.
So there are other categories as well, like brands running
insurance, I guess, right?
Insurance dealing with sensitive informations. And nationality based campaigns. For example, if you're selling tourist tickets or immigrations, so those kind of brands face this. Basically, user information doesn't have to have any sensitive information along when we send this data back into Meta.
Okay. I think so. We've also been getting this tick mark that if you're running insurance ads, you need to declare it. So if they actually started with it, I'm sure it's coming next.
And my final question is Customer Labs provides connection only to Meta or any other?
There are multiple other platforms we support.
All the platforms.
With that. So
TikTok, LinkedIn, everything.
Just a quick heads up and an understanding you guys should have. First party data ops is the foundation, right? Now Customer Labs can become your first party data partner. And it doesn't have to be Customer Labs, but the thought process is adopt first party data ops.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Hey, hi Shubro.
Yes.
Hey, I'm Aditya. I'm the founder of R Express. We are a medicine quick commerce. So, just wanted to get your point of view on how all these marketing, performance marketing, focused, for the lack of a better word, concepts change when we are looking at a web-based commerce to a app-only commerce.
Uh, Interesting question. I think so. App when you actually start doing app, you have already installed the app. So all of these concepts have already been used there.
Assume its intent to conversion is also install itself is on the table.
So I think so for installation in install, I think so. Yeah, if then we can what we can look at is like breaking down the journey till the person is not installing. You can start using first party data. Once the person has actually installed, you already have all the data. You are already monitoring everything that's happening inside your app, and that's you can already pull those audiences to remarket. For example, I did a campaign with Vested Finance. They're into global. You can buy stocks of US from India. So yeah, till that time, iOS wasn't a problem. So we really did not need customer labs. But yeah, the funnel was something very similar. Install. Once they install KYC, then we broke down the funnel into multi stages till the point they actually buy the stock. So every step, basically, we are running funnel-based campaigns, and each funnel had their own set of creatives, and that's how we more like a drip. So they complete this, then they complete this, and that's how we got them to basically. Of course, there are cases where a person would directly go and buy a stock, but most of them don't. So we broke down the funnel.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.